My father-in-law passed away suddenly.
It's because you didn't take good him. My husband is gone because of you.
I'm sorry.
Apologizing won't bring him back. You're going to pay for this.
Large drops of tears are flowing from my mother-in-law's eyes. It's such a deliberate and exaggerated part.
If you're truly sorry, at least on your knees and beg for forgiveness.
Yes, I'm very sorry. I
kneel in the middle of the funeral while many people look on and whisper among themselves. Then her cell phone starts ringing.
It's me, Mom. 33.
My husband's familiar voice came through the speaker.
I just finished burning all the evidence. I still need to erase all the emails, and then I'm going home. I'm glad the old man is gone. So easy now. I can't believe it went so well. The old man and Lucy are idiots.
Hush, Daryl.
My mother-in-law scurries to cover the speaker of her phone, but it's too late. I stand up and take a step toward her. They dug their own graves in front, large crowd. How stupid are they? Her fake tears have already dried up as flustering.
It's not what you think. I didn't call. It must have been a wrong number.
Oh dear, that's not good. Her ugly true color is revealed now. I think to myself, smiling at her ironic comment, now my father-in-law and I would be retaliating, putting everything on the line. The story goes back some time ago. She was a housewife who had turned 50 years old. To make a little extra money, she worked part-time at a local supermarket in her spare time. I married my husband, Darion, 110 years the incident, and we had no kids. My in-laws lived a 15-minute walk from our house. We planned to live together sometime future as they were getting quite. Daryl and my mother-in-law, Carol, were very kind to me when we first got married. As the years went by, they became more and more difficult to deal with. Daryl started complaining about which he had enjoyed once those days. If I served him something, he wouldn't throw it away without even tasting a bite. He also looked for places that had cleaned well and scolded me. Carol came over every day to critic everything. Then she looked in my refrigerator food home without asking me. I once asked Daryl to do something, but he told me to leave her alone as she was with her family. Not only that, he even ordered me to her. I was frustrated and sad, but I knew I could rely on myself. My parents had already passed away in university, and I had no class. I had no particular qualifications, only having worked part-time since I got married. I had no confidence in my ability to my own if I got a divorce. There was no choice but to endure. They knew what I was thinking. Whenever I showed even the slightest defiance, Daryl would say, "I'm not going to ask you again."
I have no problem getting rid of you anytime. 33.
He threatened me with a divorce. The only person who had been kind to my father-in-law, Morgan, he required nursing care, and I made between my job and housework to take him. Carol had told me,
I'm just as old as he is. It's not right to make me take care. It's the daughter-in-law's job to take care of her mother-in-law. You're part of the family, so you should at least help us.
She turned her back on him and went about her own business. Caring for Morgan had never been an easy task. He enjoyed the food I cooked for him, always humble and appreciative when he was with me. The time I spent with him was more therapy for me, which had become a part of my life. I enthusiastically went to him every day. Then one day, Daryl asked me to go with him. I was dubious about his invitation, had not received in many years. He said that Carol was watching as more left. It turned out to be a bad idea. 24 hours ago, Daryl said. While I was out, Morgan suddenly passed. B was completely stunned, but their time to grieve. Daryl and Carol put all the blame
It's because you haven't been taking care of him.
That's right. If you had taken care every day, none of this would have.
We left you in charge, but what have doing? How could he have died so suddenly?
How terrible.
Was repeatedly scolded by them. Besides, they refused to go through the hassle of preparing for the funeral, etc. And I ended up taking care of all the formalities. On the day of the funeral, Morgan used to own a small business, volunteered in the community before of his business connections and acquaintances gathered at a funeral. They all expressed their regret, for many were in tears. I watched them as if I were dreaming. Then suddenly, Carol's phone started loudly. In the quiet funeral home, it echoed uncomfortably. Carol panicked and pressed the button by mistake. The ringing stopped, but now the K voice came out at high volume. The sound was very familiar to me. It was Daryl. He said there was a job he had to do and went on a business trip, ignoring his father's funeral.
Hello? Mom, it's me. 33.
Wait, Daryl, I'm not done yet.
What? I'm destroying the evidence, all going well.
Hey, wait. 33.
Lucy's not so bright. She has no... We will split the 200,000 insurance money promised. I'm gonna head back to you soon.
Carol's face turned pale as the call. The family members and the attendee, demanding explanations and closing. The relatives called Daryl, who was supposedly on a business trip, asked him to come to the funeral home right away. At first, they were evasive, saying nothing about it. However, the angry relatives were that they were forced to come clean their plan. Morgan was feeling a little under the weather a few days before his death. It was only a little cold and nothing serious. The doctor even said he was going to better as long as he ate and slept. It was something that would heal quickly. He was well taken care of. In fact, he was getting better little by little after taking the prescribed medication. Daryl and Carol had noticed that Daryl lured me out so that I wouldn't take care of him and hoped that he would fade away. It was all for the insurance money. It was Carol who came up with the two of them had been emailing a plan. They planned to blame me for not ill care of Morgan and just taking the... Daryl used a business trip as an excuse to visit his ex-wife, who he suspected was actually busy burning the evidence of her affair with Morgan E. He had been keeping notes on her condition during the day and erased all the emails between them. When I finished hearing their story, burning with anger, Morgan was gone just because of their... I managed to calm myself and walk them. In fact, I had known the exchange be them. I looked into Daryl's phone that was the living room once. I honestly had no intention of doing. I was bothered by the non-stop beep. Incoming mail. I just wanted to pass it to him where accidentally tapped the screen and content. To say that I was shocked was an understatement. I couldn't believe they were planning such an atrocity for money. I kept my composure and immediately Morgan. After talking it over, we both agree there would surely come a day when not allow me to take care of him. We decided to hire a helper whom in case that day came. On the days when I could not visit him, I would ask her to take over. She was supposed to visit him on the went out for lunch. Was told later that she had come.
He doesn't need a helper. I would never let a stranger come into my house.
She was yelled at by Carol and was away. She had no choice but to leave without checking on him. During the discussion with him, with a few ideas, I decided to record him in case none worked. I grabbed the voice recorder and stood in front of Daryl and Carol. They looked away from me as if I was their eyes. I had known what they were planning, been hoping it was all a joke. When I actually heard the two of the about it, my brain started to boil in anger. They seemed to feel more unconcerned rather than guilty, which infuriated me even more.
What the hell do you want?
I have a message for you from Morgan.
What message?
Ignoring the confused look on Daryl's face, press the play button on the recorder. Morgan coughs a few times and then begins to speak.
The fact that you are hearing this, that the plan worked out the way you would too, I'm sure you must be very happy with things turned out, but too bad for... I've already canceled my life insurance a long time ago. You've put everything on Lucy's shoulders, don't even show your faces to me. On top of that, you've been ungrateful and giving her a hard time even though she's been working so hard. I have nothing to give or leave to dishonorable people.
Corrected. True to his word, he had already taken out the insurance policy. No matter how many times I asked him, he was sure he said,
Don't worry. 39.
He sounded somewhat forlorn and pro with the procedure without any hesitation.
So, that's that. He knew about your plan. The insurance has been cancelled for time now. There's no such thing as insurance.
No way. You're lying? You just made him say those things?
It's all your lies, isn't it?
Believe it or not, it's up to you. You can contact the insurance comparison website to get a quote. But even if he kept the contract, I still believe that. You will receive the money after speaking about the plan so much.
They looked at each other in surprise.
By the way, I recorded what you two earlier. After committing such a sin, I hope aren't going to tell me again that forgive you guys.
They hung their heads down in silence. They had given up. I called the police, and they were without resistance. I was quite busy sorting out the remaining matters of Morgan and with the political interviews after that. Daryl and Carol had avoided criminal behavior. However, their atrocity had been seer in various circles, and they were everywhere they went. Daryl was told by his boss that his performance on the project he had been overseeing would affect the company's reputation, and so he was removed from it. Although it was in the form of voluntary resignation, he was eventually fired. He's been having a hard time finding a job because of his reputation. Carol has also been distanced from friends, and the neighbors have her to move out. She has been denied a renewal of her agreement and has been forced to I filed for a divorce immediately at funeral. I wasn't able to come to terms with long time, but after the incident and Morgan left with me, I finally made mine. There was another message from him voice recorder. It was addressed to me, which I did until after the funeral.
Dearest Lucy, thank you so much for everything you have done for me. I sincerely apologize that they have such a big responsibility on you two, of me. But since I haven't been able to go really look forward to spending time you, I'm blessed that such a kind person became part of my family. I have nothing but gratitude. I am so sorry that I couldn't protect you from them. You can go anywhere and live any way you want. So don't give up. Do you want to choose a path that will make you happy?
Such was the message. It made me burst into tears. He was right. I was tired of my life, and before I had given up, was convinced that it was the only way to save his life. Morgan was right about choosing without Daryl, and even all alone, continue living. I wanted to fulfill his last wish. I immediately filed for divorce and of the house. I continued to work part-time at the supermarket for the time being while looking for a full-time job. I was so anxious about my life, but now I feel like I have a bright future ahead of me. I am going to start my way of life on.